The critical drinker is afraid of women, and it's really funny.
Oh dear, 2025 hasn't exactly been a bumper year for the MCU, with back-to-back flops in the shape of Brave New World and Thunderbolts.
Oh yeah, I remember that really bad review you made, which I also happened to respond to. Funny how we keep meeting this way.
Maybe, after a quarter of a century of failed attempts, someone might actually do justice to the Fantastic Four. But leave it to Marvel to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. The problem started out small at first, like the casting of Reed Richards, which turned out to be trickier than expected. Apparently, the studio approached at least 3 other actors to play Reed and they all turned it down. But why would they do such a thing? Who in their right mind would turn their back on a leading role in a big budget Marvel movie with a huge paycheck at the end of it? Well, if I was a cynical man, I'd say it's because they wrote Reed to be a weak, cowardly pussy who gets bossed around by his far more powerful and assertive wife for most of the movie, and the leading men of Hollywood are getting almost as tired of playing characters like that as we are of watching them.
What the hell are you talking about? Where are you getting this from? This movie isn't out yet, and you're already whining about Reed being a weak character, and using that to headcanon a reason for why Pedro Pascal was casted? What am I watching? But
then, like a knight in rainbow-coloured armour, a saviour arrived to take up the mantle. That's right, it was Pedro, I'll appear in literally anything Pascal, an actor that clearly saw the meme about him taking on far too many roles and said, "More!" But hey, who knows? Maybe Pedro would buck the career-long trend of taking on high-profile but inappropriate roles and deliver an absolutely killer performance as Reed Richards.
Yeah. He could give a great performance, so what is this argument right here?
But then there was the casting of Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, who's 38 in real life and somehow manages to look even older on screen.
I don't know if you have functioning eyes or something like that, but that clearly looks like someone around their 30s or 40s.
Then Vanessa revealed in an interview with Entertainment Weekly back in April that this movie was going to explore the gender politics of Sue Storm and women's place in 1960s culture.
Fuck.
Okay, sure. That kind of statement can mean a lot of different things. I mean, the film's set in the 1960s, which was a pretty important time for feminism and women's lib and all that other stuff, so I guess it would make sense to at least acknowledge it.
So you acknowledge a reason for why this would fit in the movie, and you're still finding a way to complain about it. Drinker, actually think about the things you're complaining about, instead of finding excuses to complain about problems without any guiding logic behind it whatsoever. People who do that are annoying.
Maybe she just means the movie will present an interesting contrast between the kind of expectations and questions that women in 1960s America were grappling with versus the modern day MCU, where they basically act like obnoxious caricatures of men if they were written by 16-year-old gender studies graduates from Portland.
I know you want to complain about the modern MCU, but this is a deleted scene. This is not in the Captain Marvel movie. So you're being dishonest when using this against the MCU's writing as a whole.
Then there was the decision to make the Silver Surfer, one of the most iconic antagonists in all of the Marvel comics, into a female. Because of course.
Oh, come on!
This is pretty standard critical drinker cope, you get used to it. Watch this, he's gonna undermine his point in the next sentence.
But Drinker, you clueless connoisseur of comic calamities, I hear you say. If you read the Earth X limited run comic from 1999, you'd know that there's an alternate universe where Shala Bao becomes the Silver Surfer instead of Norrin Rads. Thank you, imaginary strawman that I used to awkwardly transition into my next point. There was indeed a female Silver Surfer in a limited run series set in an alternate reality from 25 years ago, so I guess that technically makes this lore accurate? Sure, let's just go with that.
Sure, let's go with a detail that undermines the entire complaint you just made. What an excellent assessment.
The point is, every time another one of these revelations comes out, it became just a little bit harder to ignore what seemed to be a growing pattern.
It sounds to me like you're scared of women in media for some bizarre reason. What are you worried about? For each and every point, you either haven't demonstrated anything problematic, or you mention a detail that defeats the validity of your complaint.
Like, if Marvel were trying to refute allegations that the MCU was taking over everything that they did, they were making life pretty hard for themselves.
You need to elaborate on what the MCU is before trying to fearmonger people like this. You just showed female characters in the newer installments, and I don't care. They existed in the older installments as well. Give me a singular argument for why this is problematic. or I don't care about your concerns.
And then, last week, we began to hear reports of a test screening for the latest cut of the movie, where major details of both the plot and the ending were leaked. A test screening that basically confirmed everyone's suspicions. Now, I'm sorry for what I'm about to show you.
So,
Look, I said I'm sorry, okay? If there was another way to do this, I absolutely would.
how do I want to phrase this? Even though it's a team of 1 woman and 3 guys, I think that you're going to have a situation at the end of the movie where it's women who save the day. And you're like, why? Why? Can't Reed at least be involved? You know, you're like, come on, man. You know, like, come on.
There's no way this is your source. There's no way this is your evidence. This is the same person who implied that it was creepy for Shadow to hang out with Maria in Sonic 3 because Shadow is adult-coded. Drinker, this take from Grace Randolph could easily be built around false readings of the movie. This is your evidence? This is your smoking gun? Delete this video. Wipe it off the platform. It's stupid, doesn't work, pay attention.
Eloquently phrased as always, Grace. Good job. I mean, if even one of the biggest Marvel shills on the planet is calling out your movie for being too girl bossy, you know you've got fucking problems.
Drinker, that is not evidence. That is not the film. That's some random person talking about it when they could easily be inaccurate. You know, kinda like you when you made that Guardians 3 review. Or your buddies at EFAP who made several brain-dead criticisms of it.
Anyway, the gist here is that the movie culminates with Sue Storm joining forces with the female Silver Surfer to defeat Galactus, with a little help from a superpowered baby, leaving the rest of the lads with, well, not a whole lot to do.
I love criticizing movies based on leaks and reviews. That's so awesome. What an innovative form of criticism.
Oh my goodness, it literally is the meme.
Girls get it done.
And all of this begs the rather obvious question, why?
Why can't you critique the movie based on its content instead of leaks and reviews? This is not criticism. This is coping your way to find criticism.
Why do they keep doing this? Why do they keep pushing the same trope that clearly isn't working and hasn't for years now?
So you're unironically complaining that women save the day? Is this a serious criticism? Did we hear people complain that Peter Parker and Doc Ock saved the day in Spider-Man 2? Or that Batman and Jim Gordon saved the day in The Dark Knight? All because they're all men? This is such a stupid criticism. This is hollow, meaningless rhetoric that says nothing of value about the material.
Like, did nobody at the studio put up their hand and say, we've been doing this whole MCU thing for like 5 years now, nobody likes it.
Many modern MCU entries are bad because of bad writing or general production value, not because of the use of women. Avengers Endgame is mostly male. That was terrible. Spider-Man Far From Home is mostly male. That was terrible. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is mostly male. That was terrible. Daredevil Born Again is mostly male. That was terrible. Across the Spider-Verse makes Gwen arguably as prominent as Miles, and that was a great movie. It's almost like it doesn't matter if female characters are pushed to more prominent roles. That has nothing to do with the quality. It's certainly a better movie than Deadpool and Wolverine, which is about 2 men.
Everyone's making fun of us and it's losing us a shit ton of money. Can we maybe try something else now?
Women do not cause movies to lose money. What kind of argument is this? Captain Marvel made $1 billion. Stop appealing to the box office.
Maybe there's still time for them to rework the ending, give the boys a chance to be heroes for a change.
You mean like the clips you just showed in this part of the video? Where they're acting like heroes? Come on, man.
And ditch the girl boss who does everything trope once and for all.
Are you stupid?
I hope for their sake they do, otherwise they might just find themselves with 3 flops in a row this year. My hopes, however, are not high for the Fantastic Four.
My hopes for your review aren't high if this is the level of arguments you're making for literal nothing concerns and complaints. This video was embarrassing and a pretty good representation of the problems with creators like Critical Drinker, who constantly complain about wokeness in media, yet they can't seem to formulate a well-reasoned and backed-up argument for how something is problematic. This is just baseless complaining. The title may be a hyperbole, but I don't care. His reasoning is so shallow that it genuinely comes across as him complaining about women being in media, or at least being more prominent in media. That's all I got for now. I'm going to bed now.